My name is Elizabeth Shore. I'm 29 years old. And at my own wedding, my father took the microphone, looked me in the face, and said, "If you marry that man, you are dead to this family." My mother didn't stop him. She stood beside him in a white silk suit, smiling while he announced to our relatives, investors, and half the Palo Alto social circle that I had been cut out of the will, removed from every family trust, and stripped of my shares before I even said I do. Then my mother raised her champagne glass and said, "A broke nobody does not join this family." People laughed, some looked away. Not one relative stayed on my side. My husband never argued. He just took my hand and whispered, "Come with me." 92 days later, my parents' billion-dollar company was in chaos. Their board was in emergency session, and my father finally understood that the man he had called nobody was the one person he should never have humiliated. Before I take you back to the night my family destroyed me in public, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I read every single one because what happened after that wedding wasn't just revenge. It was the beginning of my parents' downfall. Now, let me take you back. September 17th, 2025, City Hall, San Francisco, 2008 p.m. My father's voice was still echoing off the marble walls. Then I heard it movement. The shuffle of 300 people deciding whether to stay or leave. They left. My Aunt Patricia, my godmother, the woman who taught me to ride a bike, gathered her arms purse and wouldn't meet my eyes. Uncle James, who told me last Christmas I was his favorite niece, checked his phone and walked out. My Stanford roommate Olivia didn't even come inside. She texted from the parking lot, "I'm so sorry. I can't get involved." 300 people invited. Within 8 minutes, 288 were gone. 12 remained. All Nathans, his college roommate I'd met twice. Former colleagues whose names I barely knew. His aunt from Portland who'd driven 6 hours. My side of the room. Empty chairs arranged in perfect rows, empty everything. Judge Sandra Blake, she'd married hundreds of couples, probably seen everything, looked at me with something I'd never seen in a judge's eyes before. Pity. Do you still want to proceed? I looked at the empty chairs, then at Nathan. He wasn't crying, wasn't angry, wasn't afraid. Why wasn't he afraid? We'd just lost everything. My family, my inheritance, my entire world had walked out 8 minutes ago, and he was standing there like he knew something I didn't. "Yes," I said. "We proceed." The ceremony happened in near silence. Judge Blake read the words. I answered. Nathan answered. Somewhere behind me, one of his friends was crying. Not for joy, for me. Who gives this woman in marriage? The question hung in the air. My side. 6 empty chairs in the front row. My mother's chair, my father's chair, the chairs where my family should have been. Silence. Then Nathan's and Carol, this woman I'd met exactly twice, stood up. "We all do." I broke. Not because she said it, because my own mother, standing somewhere outside in her white silk suit, probably already in her Tesla, heading back to a T13, wouldn't say it, couldn't say it, had chosen not to say it. But this stranger did. As Judge Blake pronounced us married, I saw movement in the back. One of Nathan's guests, a man in his late 30s wearing tech casual, was staring at Nathan with an expression I couldn't read. Shock, recognition, something else. His name tag said Tyler Morrison. After the ceremony, Tyler pulled Nathan aside. I pretended not to watch, but I did. I watched everything now. You learn to pay attention when your world collapses. Tyler. Nathan Rivers. The Nathan Rivers from Cloud Vault 2014. Nathan glanced at me, then back to Tyler. Ancient history. Does she know? Not yet. Jesus. Nathan. They stopped talking when I walked over. The reception was at a small Italian restaurant in North Beach. 12 guests, a corner we'd reserved for 50. The owner kept apologizing for the empty tables. I told him it was fine. It wasn't fine. I checked my phone 34 times between 4 and 7 p.m. I counted 0 messages from anyone who'd been in my life before today. Not my mother, not my father, not one Stanford friend, Not one venture capital contact who'd called me brilliant last month. Not one board member from the foundation I'd served on for 3 years. Tyler's wife, Sarah, tried to make conversation. Nathan's told us so much about you. Funny, I said. He hasn't told me much about you or about anything really. Awkward silence. Nathan's college roommate, Andrew, leaned in. He's always been private but loyal. When Nathan commits to something, he commits. I wanted to ask what he meant, but Tyler caught me by the coat rack as people were leaving. Your husband, he said, voice low. He's a better man than most people realize. A lot more than he seems. What does that mean? Ask him about Cloud Vault. Ask him about 2014. He left before I could ask anything else. Hotel Bohm, room 308. It cost $280, more than Nathan made in a week, according to the tax returns he'd shown my parents. We sat on the edge of the bed. I still had my dress on. He still had his suit on. Neither of us knew what to say. Not one person, I finally said. My father downed me in front of 300 people, and not one person stayed. I know. I'm sorry. You keep saying that, but you don't seem surprised. You don't seem anything. How are you so calm? Nathan turned to look at me. Really? Look at me. Because I know something they don't. What? That this isn't over. Not even close. Nathan, they have everything. Money, power, connections. We have what? Your freelance consulting income. This hotel room cost more than you make in a week. A slight smile. That's what they see. That's what they think. What does that mean, 92 days? That's how long they have. Until what? Until they remember who I am. I was about to ask what he meant when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then at me. I need to take this. Just a minute. He went into the bathroom. The door didn't close all the way. I heard fragments. December 18th confirmed. Authorization protocols unchanged since 2016. Yes, I still have root access. They have no idea. This was always going to happen. When he came back out, I pretended to be looking at my phone. Who was that? Just work stuff. Nothing important. It was 3:17 a.m. I was still awake when he made that call. Nothing important doesn't happen at 3:17 a.m. But to understand what Nathan was planning, what he'd been planning probably since the moment he met me, I need to take you back to April when I told my parents I was engaged. April 12th, 2025, at the Thirden Estate, 7:30 p.m. I'd rehearsed the announcement 100 times. Mom, Dad, Nathan, and I are engaged. Simple, direct, adult. What I didn't rehearse was my father's immediate pivot into interrogation mode. The Chateau Margaux sat unopened on the table, $3,200. My mother had ordered it to celebrate, except she didn't know yet what she'd be celebrating. What does he do? My father asked before I'd even finished the sentence. Cybersecurity consulting. My mother's pause was surgical. Consulting? How delightfully vague. Nathan sat perfectly still. I work with infrastructure security, enterprise systems, mostly legacy architecture. Education, San Jose. State, the temperature in the room dropped 10. Not Stanford, my mother said. Not a question, a verdict. No. My father leaned forward. Assets? I'm comfortable. That wasn't the question. Nathan's smile didn't reach his eyes. I rent an apartment in Redwood City. I drive a leased Hunter. I have savings. I'm not wealthy, mister. Sure, but I'm not broke either. My father's expression said, you're broke by our standards. The interrogation lasted 23 minutes. Then my father dismissed Nathan to speak with Elizabeth privately. After Nathan left the room, my father turned to me. He's hiding something. Nobody is that vague without reason. Maybe he's just private. Or maybe he's targeting you. My mother's voice was ice. We're hiring an investigator. 3 weeks later, I was in the kitchen when I saw my mother's iPad on the counter. Email open. Subject line confidential background verification complete. I shouldn't have read it, but I did. Sterling and Associates, 47 pages, $15,000. The summary was brutal. no significant assets, no family wealth indicators, education. San Jose State University, current residence, rental, Redwood City, $2,400 per month. Vehicle 2019 Honda Civic leased, credit score 720, adequate but unremarkable, then one line. Redacted.